Since you can't even do housework properly, you might as well just keep working.
I couldn't help but get irritated by those words. Originally, it was Thomas who was against me working. Jealous of me becoming a supervisor, then hitting me up for money when my salary increased, and now telling me to keep working all the time. It's unbelievable how he thinks. So selfish.
What's up? You got a complaint? If you have a complaint, then you might as well do whatever you want to.
Sensing my irritation, Thomas retorted with a sullen expression. Fine, I'll do whatever I want then. Unable to stay silent, I said that and went to bed grumpy. I was furious with Thomas, but work doesn't wait for anyone. The next day, as soon as I got to the office, I requested a meeting with the director. As I had declared to Thomas, I decided to do whatever I want and take on a certain task that had been proposed before. My name is Anna. I'm 30 years old. I married Thomas, who's the same age, about 3 years ago. We don't have children yet, so we're currently a dual-income couple working hard. In the past, many people thought that women would become housewives once they got married, but those times have changed. Although we work at different companies, we're both employed full-time and help each other out with the household chores. Broadly speaking, Thomas is in charge of laundry and cleaning. I mainly take care of meals and have been trying to make beautiful dishes for Thomas since we got married. At work, I strive to perform as well as men, and I recently got promoted to supervisor. Becoming a supervisor means both the quantity and quality of work increases. However, Thomas, despite being a fellow employee, didn't try to understand my situation.
We had this for dinner yesterday, right? Aren't your dinners a bit too careless these days? Please make an effort.
One evening at dinner, Thomas said that. Thomas is still a general employee, a rank-and-file worker. Perhaps he felt bitter that I received a title before him, and instead of celebrating my promotion, he started nagging every day. Of course, I don't have as much free time as before, but I'm still properly doing my share of the household chores. Knowing that Thomas's complaints stem from jealousy, I have no choice but to adopt a humble attitude. Sorry, I do prepare in the morning, but it inevitably gets late preparing dinner after coming back, so I've been making side dishes in advance.
Side dishes? So you're saying it's inevitable that it's the same every day?
That's not what I mean.
Don't make excuses. Basically, you're the one who said you take care of meals when we got married, right? The women at my company manage their households well, even while raising children. I always tell you that.
I couldn't say anything. Of course there might be such people at Thomas's company, but it's pointless to compare with others. Moreover, the women Thomas often mentions is actually working part-time. Not that I look down on part-time work, but being equated like that feels somewhat off. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm gonna forgive you because I'm kind, haha.
Thomas starts eating again as soon as I apologize. I wish he would eat without saying anything if he's gonna eat anyway, but there's no helping it. When I talk about Thomas to a friend, they tell me to think of it as practice for parenting. Indeed, even without children, looking at Thomas does make me feel like I'm dealing with a child. I've no choice but to flatter him with a humble attitude. Oh, right, you did the laundry, didn't you? Thank you.
Huh? Oh, yeah, of course, That was the deal. You know, without me the house wouldn't function, haha.
I swallowed what I wanted to say and praised Thomas. Thomas seemed pleased with that. Indeed, Thomas does his share of the household chores as agreed, but when it comes to laundry, he doesn't look at the care labels or use a net. He just throws everything in and pushes one button to wash and dry. So occasionally, Thomas complains about clothes shrinking or getting pilled. If that counts as properly doing the chores, I wonder how well I'm actually managing. But I never voiced my dissatisfaction. The one time I did, it led to a huge fight.
Why didn't you quit your job and do everything yourself? That's why I said it when we got married. I should have never listened to anything you said. Just like Betty told me.
Thomas raged and hurled insults at me, then stopped talking to me for about 2 weeks. Of course, during that time, he didn't do his share of the work, leaving me to handle everything. Enduring a bit here and there is better for me than feeling so drained, both mentally and physically. Indeed, as he said during our argument, Thomas was originally not supportive of my working.
Betty said there's nothing good about a married woman working outside. That's why I want you to stay at home.
I don't know why Thomas's sister said that, but I was willing to go along with it, if that's what Thomas wanted. But it turned out we couldn't make ends meet on Thomas's salary alone. We weren't in a situation where we could live on ideals alone, so I desperately tried to convince him to let me keep working. My company is a major one and the pay is good. If we both worked, we might have some leeway. Thomas reluctantly agreed to my earnest plea, leading to our current situation. Despite everything, whether half-heartedly or not, Thomas did share in the household chores. It was a fact that even that much was a help. Then, Thomas's birthday approached. We hadn't done anything extravagant to celebrate since we got married. We usually celebrated at home with my home-cooked meals, but this year, now that I had been promoted and my salary had increased, I decided to celebrate his birthday with a hotel dinner. When the day came and I bought him a gift, Thomas was pleasantly surprised and enjoyed the steak course.
This is the best meal I've ever had, but are you sure we can afford this?
It's your special day. I got a raise since becoming a supervisor and we'll save a bit from now on. No complaints about the side dishes, okay? We joked and ended the day like that, but I didn't notice Thomas smiling smugly at that moment. A few days later, Thomas asked,
"Hey, you said your salary went up, right? How much? Being a supervisor must mean a good raise, right?"
He started pestering me about it. Before his birthday, supervisor seemed like a taboo word. Neither of us would mention it, but as soon as he heard about the raise, he quickly changed his tune.
"Being a supervisor is amazing. It's all because you worked so hard."
He started praising me like that. At first, I couldn't keep up with this sudden change and just gave a wry smile to brush it off, but he was insistent about the salary. I continued to completely ignore it, but when I kept ignoring him,
"What's the matter? Got too cocky becoming a supervisor? You must be looking down on me. A mere employee at a small to medium-sized company."
He sulked. "It was just a splurge for your birthday. We're not rich, so stop talking about money." I finally snapped, and that put an end to his persistence, but it was clear that Thomas was fixated on my money. If I knew it would come to this, I wished I hadn't become a supervisor, or even celebrated his birthday. There was a bit of regret, but it wasn't all bad. After becoming a supervisor, I was entrusted with a significant project. Though it meant more overtime, Thomas was supportive.
"You're a supervisor and busy with work. I'll do what I can."
He started preparing dinner, even if it was frozen meals. Even if it was because of his fixation on money, his cooperation made that birthday meaningful, perhaps. And when the project finally settled down, Thomas asked with bright eyes,
"So? You're busy, so you must be getting a special bonus, right?"
I was surprised by his question. "No, why would there be one?" I said wearily, astonished. Then Thomas exploded.
"What? Months of overtime and no bonus? What was the point of me helping then? What a crappy company."
I didn't have the energy to argue back. The point of helping? Is there supposed to be a meaning behind a couple's cooperation? The thought of him belittling someone's company was unbelievable. That was the moment I couldn't hold back anymore. "What? I thought I was grateful for your help, but this is what you think? I'm disappointed." In response to my retort, Thomas fired back, and then I retorted again, leading to a full-blown argument. "Enough! Let's stop. I'm tired and going to sleep." I forcibly ended the conversation like that. After that, I couldn't even stand to look at Thomas's face for a while. Sometime later, I had to go on a business trip. We hadn't spoken since the argument, but I had to let him know since I would be away from home. "I'm going on a business trip for 2 nights and 3 days, so please take care of things while I'm gone." I said that, but Thomas, perhaps still angry, didn't respond. Without making up, I left for my business trip. Busy with work for 3 days, I found myself wondering how Thomas was doing during my free moments. Was he eating properly? I was worried, but too prideful to make contact. The time apart allowed me to cool off. Planning to apologize when I got back, I finished my 3 days of work, bought some delicious souvenirs, and headed home. "I'm back!" But as soon as I entered the house, I sensed something was off. There were many unfamiliar shoes in the shoe rack, and there was the smell of cooking, not from frozen food, unmistakably the aroma of a home-cooked meal. Thomas can't cook. I rushed into the living room. "Oh, Anna, welcome back." "Betty, what are you doing here?" To my surprise, it was Thomas's sister Betty standing in the kitchen, visible from the living room. On the couch, lounging as if it was the most natural thing in the world, was Thomas's niece, Lisa. It didn't look like just a visit. It seemed like our house had gained extra belongings. Even this couch wasn't here before I left for my trip. I stood dumbfounded at the entrance to the living room, unable to comprehend the situation. "Dinner will be ready soon," said Betty nonchalantly. While I couldn't take my eyes off her, I approached Thomas, who was sitting in a living room chair, and spoke to him. "What's going on, Thomas?"
"As if it's a big deal." I decided to live with Betty and Lisa. The move's already done.
Thomas said it as if it were the most natural thing. That's what's going on, so please be nice. Betty added with a smile, but I couldn't bring myself to smile, moving in their stuff without asking, deciding to live together without consultation. Wait a minute, you can't just decide that on your own.
What's the problem? You're always too busy with overtime to do any housework anyway. It's better if we live together and Betty takes care of the house.
Thomas retorted to my attempted objection. Betty had Lisa at 20 and divorced a few years later. Since then, she had been a single mother raising Lisa, now 18, on her own. I knew this, and I knew Thomas was fond of his older sister, Betty, but I never imagined it would lead to us living together. Come on, Anna, Betty said without any hesitation. Nice to meet you, murmured Lisa quietly. My head hurt, but there was no way I could accept the situation so silently. I'm sorry, but I can't live with you all, I stated clearly. However, Thomas laughed at me as if it were a joke.
Why not? Since you can't even do housework properly, you might as well just keep working.
I was irked by his words. Originally, it was Thomas who opposed me working. Jealous of my promotion, then mooching off me when my salary increased, and now telling me to keep working, was unbelievable. So selfish.
What's up? Got a complaint? If you have a complaint, you might as well do whatever you want, too.
Sensing my irritation, Thomas retorted with a scowl. Fine, I'll do whatever I want then. But I was the one who wanted to be angry. Unable to stay silent, I said that to Thomas. After that, there was no more conversation between Thomas and I went to sleep. Betty and Lisa, having apparently given up their own home, naturally moved their bed into our home and slept here. The room that was supposed to be for children had been turned into their room without my consent, and I was more saddened than angry. Yet, work doesn't wait for anyone. The next day, as soon as I got to work, I requested a meeting with the director. I decided to take on a task that hadn't been proposed before.
That's great. I'm grateful you're taking it on.
It's a good opportunity, so I'll do my best for my own sake. After making a promise to the director, I immersed myself in work. I found it better to be at work than to go home, unable to forgive Thomas. A few days later.
Hey Anna, how long are you going to sulk? Just come back already.
Thomas sent that message to me. I had been going home, but only when everyone was asleep, and I left before anyone woke up. But for the past few days, I hadn't even been going home, because I had found a new place to live. Come back, I can't just do that right away, I said, laughing.
Can't do it right away, what do you mean?
I'm in Italy right now. It's the middle of the night here. Plus, Betty's there to take care of the house, right?
Huh?
Thomas paused, taken aback by my yawning reply. It was night for Thomas, but it was already the middle of the night over here. Coming back from work to this conversation with Thomas was just exhausting. Finally getting it, Thomas suddenly raised his voice.
What? Italy? You went on a trip without telling us?
It's not a trip. I've been living here for the past 3 days.
What are you talking about?
But my next words seemed to confuse Thomas again. Had he forgotten what he said about doing whatever I wanted? I could almost see him gaping over the phone, and I said, laughing, What I mean is you said to do whatever I wanted, and I said I would. So I accepted the Italy assignment that had been offered to me before. They've prepared a condo for me to live in, and it's a beautiful place.
You know there's a limit to doing whatever you want. It's about our life together, and you decide on your own.
Thomas sounded quite upset. Surely, if we had discussed it, we would have decided to move here together. But this assignment in Italy was like a prize for my work achievements. Thomas was to blame for getting mad about the bonus and not listening to other things. Yet, didn't he feel odd saying that? He decided on his own to live with Betty and Lisa. What he had said was coming back to haunt him. Did you consult me about anything that affects our life together?
Well,
I'll be working here, and I'll return to the States as a manager in 2 years. Until then, have a nice life with Betty and her family. I hung up the phone. Thomas must be feeling uneasy now, his own actions and words preventing him from living abroad. A few days later, Thomas contacted me. Wondering what it was about, I answered, and he sounded cheerful.
Guess where I am?
I don't care, I'm working. I'm hanging up.
Believe it or not, I'm in front of your condo. Huh.
I was surprised by his words. He had called my work to get my address, saying it was necessary for some procedures, and relying on that address, he had come over on his own. What about your work?
I took some time off and...
Yoo-hoo, I'm here too. To my surprise, I heard Betty's voice over the phone. Why she had come to was beyond me. I was exasperated.
So, we're both waiting out here. Hurry home.
Both? What about Lisa?
Lisa has a test, so she couldn't come.
Betty said nonchalantly. I was astounded again. Is that so? But I won't be coming back today. I have a dinner meeting far away. Even if they had contacted me, I wasn't in the mood to entertain them, and I couldn't accommodate them on such short notice. I had a social gathering with another company and wasn't planning to go home.
Huh? What should we do?
Thomas sounded panicked, but that wasn't my concern. Stay at a hotel or something? Anyway, that's the situation. Also, I'm in the middle of work. Bye. I hung up the phone. They might be making a fuss, but I didn't have time for that. They'd probably give up and look for a hotel. However, I had underestimated the situation. In the middle of the social gathering, my phone rang. Excuse me. I excused myself and answered the phone. Puzzled by the unfamiliar number, it turned out to be from the police. Excuse me, a burglar? Apparently, there was an intruder at my house looking for an open window. What they found was a pet door. I didn't own a pet, so I hadn't noticed, but the house built by my company had one. Of course, I had no idea it even existed, so it wasn't locked. The intruder tried to enter through it and got stuck, unable to move forward or back, and was spotted by a passerby who then called the police. What a foolish burglar. Encountering such a fool could be dangerous. I was relieved I wasn't home at the time.
The person claims to be your sister. Do you know anything about this?
I went pale at those words. Sister? Could it be... I don't have a sister. The only possibility was Thomas's sister Betty. As expected, the police mentioned her name. I was mortified. Unbelievable that she tried to force her way in through such a small entrance, making even family relations embarrassing. Anna, help me, come pick me up. I could hear Betty causing a scene over the phone. What a nuisance. Though I could have gone to pick her up, I told the police. She may be my sister-in-law, but I can't forgive her for trying to break into my house. Please investigate thoroughly what she intended to do in my home. The police responded to my complaint. Betty was severely reprimanded. However, since she didn't speak Italian, there was a lot of confusion and stress, leading her to break down crying.
You must not cause trouble for your sister anymore,
a police officer told her in simple English. Okay. To which Betty tearfully repeated. Getting caught by the police in Italy must have been a good lesson for her. Out of a desire for her to truly reflect, I didn't go to pick her up on the day she contacted me. The next day, thinking she might have reflected, I went to pick her up, and Betty broke down crying in relief at the sight of me. Where was Thomas during all this? Only Betty was caught. Thomas was probably relaxing in a hotel, which I hadn't really considered. It turned out that while Betty was being arrested, Thomas was enjoying a meal alone, believing Betty would bring money from my house and splurging at a restaurant. He was oblivious to Betty's arrest, ended up getting drunk, and fell asleep at the restaurant. The restaurant, troubled by an unresponsive Thomas, called the police, and he woke up in an unfamiliar police station. However, since my house and the restaurant were in different jurisdictions, Thomas was taken to a different police station.
My wallet, my passport, where's my phone?
Unfortunately, while passed out, his bag was stolen, losing his wallet, passport, and phone. Unable to speak Italian and arrested for dine and dash, Thomas was unable to ask for help and ended up in police custody. This was discovered after Betty was released. Where's Thomas? Betty's troubling question was the first time I realized Thomas was missing. After hearing the details and following Betty's story to the restaurant, I learned from the owner that Thomas had been taken by the police.
Betty, Anna.
When we visited the police station, Thomas, pale-faced, broke down crying at the mention of our names. I sighed at the déjà vu. I explained the situation to the restaurant owner, paid the bill, and apologized. Though a theft had occurred, the owner, feeling sorry for Thomas, decided not to press charges for the dine and dash. But what followed was a hassle. We had to go through the lost passport procedures and contact the embassy. Because of Betty and Thomas, I couldn't work properly for several days. When I was about to explode with frustration, Thomas said,
"Oh, I thought it was all over, but I'm glad it worked out."
Really glad. Let's go back to Emma's place for now. I lost my temper at their carefree words.
good? It's not good at all for me. After causing so much trouble for others, how can you say it turned out well? Sorry, but go back to your own house and don't ever come here again. Silenced by my fury, they both fell quiet. But I'll be filing out the divorce papers this weekend. Divorce? Thomas shouted. Betty, standing beside him, was shocked, looking back and forth between me and Thomas. There's no benefit in continuing a marriage with you. Betty moves in uninvited, gets arrested in Italy without speaking a word of Italian, and interrupts my work. It seemed they finally understood the gravity of my anger. Heads bowed, they remained silent. And passers-by laughed at the sight of two adults being scolded by a woman. But my anger was far from settled. So I'm divorcing you. You have no objections, right? Having been rescued from the police by me as a thank you, I deserve to live my life freely, right? Yes. Thomas reluctantly agreed, deeply reflecting on his actions, and quietly responded. Thomas initially applied for a 4-day leave from work. However, due to the arrest and lost passport, he missed his return flight by a wide margin. Without a cell phone, he couldn't extend his leave. Thomas had completely forgotten about work amidst his own troubles. Furthermore, he hadn't shared any info about his current project, planning to take all the credit. His delayed return and lack of communication led to a missed important meeting, resulting in the termination of all deals with that client. Despite the circumstances causing significant losses to the company, got Thomas fired. Betty, infuriated by this, had a huge argument with Thomas. Originally, quitting his job and moving in as a housekeeper was akin to what he did. However, Thomas ended up divorcing me and resigning from his job. With no breadwinner, that house now seems to be the site of constant fierce arguments. Why I know all this is thanks to information from Lisa. Kids can't choose their parents, but if I could, I'd definitely choose you over Mom. Divorcing Thomas meant Lisa and I were no longer aunt and niece by marriage. However, she still contacts me for career advice or to talk about her mom, as if I were her sister. I'm happy she thinks of me that way, even though we weren't together that much. I continued working in Italy. I was supposed to return to America after 2 years, but now there's no need, and I plan to keep working here. I've also built a good relationship with a man I met locally. I'm ready to let go of the bad memories in the beautiful Italian sea and strive for new happiness.